he's not coming, so this is regular.
He was going to do it first.
Huh? Yeah, they usually we'll just do that. He's over here. I can't find him. And tell him not to worry about it.
Glasses this time. Well, if the last 2 weeks are any indication, yes. Because it's just so complicated. It seemed dumb. I was really all for them because I hate to have people lose their homes. So I was kind of like, oh, come on, let's just go through the process and see if they can buy it back. You know? But that's when I got the price at the second sale. The way they said, I thought it was going to be way higher than what they could afford. But now that I know that both of them have the benefits, saving the day for the attorney.
Brother.
Who is?
Oh, God. Worse, you know. Location.
I just
I'm going to call the Butte-Silver Bowl Council of Commissioners regular meeting Wednesday, January 22nd, 2020 to order. Can we have roll call, please?
We have 10 present and 2 absent.
Let the record show that Morgan and Shaw are here. And
thank you.
Commissioner Olson and Sorich are excused this evening. You weren't on the board. Commissioner McDonough, would you lead us in the prayer and the pledge?
Almighty God, we implore you, look upon us and guide us this night as we make decisions which so greatly affect our community of Butte-Silver Bowl. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you and best serve our fellow citizens. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now is the time for any public comment on any items on the consent agenda. Ed.
Auditor Boundrop, 2601 Grand Avenue, President of the Greeley Neighborhood Community Development Corporation. And when I say that, I mean I have sent the following comments to the directors, and they have approved my presenting them to you. And a resident of the Greeley neighborhood. Reference Section 1, Consent Agenda. A, Committee Reports. 1, Committee of the Whole Meeting Report. Number 3, Communication 19571. requesting Council of Commissioners authorize the Chief Executive to form a Butte-Silver Bowl hazardous to human health, heavy metals, contaminants task force. Our Butte-Silver Bowl CEO, Mr. Palmer, made a very disturbing statement at last Wednesday's Committee of the Whole meeting. He said basically, and I do not quote, that this local government and its Department of Health policy is to not openly recognize that Butte is an active mining camp and to continue to not openly recognize that there are hazardous to human health heavy metal contaminants present in our community. This so as not to deter business and people from moving to Butte. This instead of this local government openly recognizing that Butte is an active mining camp and has hazardous to human health heavy metal contaminants present in our community. From a well-known, richest heavy metals natural ore lode, and from 140 years of accumulated historic mine waste deposits, and from active open pit mining, and facilitate the formation of a community-wide task force to create and implement a holistic master plan to minimize human exposure to these contaminants. One aspect of Mr. Palmer's statement is definitely significant. Whatever policy this government decides on has enormous community-wide ramifications. As I stated last week, the Greeley Neighborhood Community Development Corporation, Inc. will be submitting an addendum to Communication 19571 in a few weeks. I want first to hear from the state toxicologist. You will have an opportunity to make a policy decision that will most probably be more far-reaching and important than the decision to concur or deny the consent decree. Please think about it, sleep on it, and deliberate on it. And think about and including the legal ramifications of your decision. And then decide whether or not our local government should openly recognize that Butte is a historic and active mining camp and has hazardous to human health heavy metal contaminants from the natural ore lode, from 140 years of accumulated mine waste, and from the active open pit mining present in our community. And should our local government facilitate the formation of a community-wide task force to create and implement a holistic master plan to minimize human exposure to these contaminants, or not? Second item I would like to make comment about, reference consent agenda B, communications number 15, communication 2020-36, excuse me. Requesting concurrence in the development of a Butte-Silver Bowl Health Study Advisory Committee. I had to sleep on this one and think about it. But yes, I and the Greeley neighborhood do support that this local government and its Department of Health form a subcommittee of the Health Department's board to review further health studies and advise what action should be looked at. This subcommittee may be precisely what the Health Department needs, as historically the action of the Health Department has been to continue to deny the possibility of any health risk from the heavy metals contaminants present in our community, and discredit the independent studies so as not to imply that the active mine should do anything more than what it is already doing to minimize human exposure to the hazards of these contaminants in the air, in the soil, in the water, in our buildings, and not to deter business and people from moving to Butte. The independent health studies indicate that we have a higher death rate from certain diseases than other locations. As the Butte-Silver Health Department and the Montana Department of Health and Human Services do not agree that these differences are caused by heavy metal contaminants, the only common variable between the locations, then the committee should not only focus on scrutinizing the independent health studies, but should also focus on finding out what is causing this difference in the death rates indicated in those studies. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments on any items on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of January 8th, 2020. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes of January 8th, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion made and second to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of January 8th, 2020. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
There are 10 yea and 0 nay.
Motion carries. We do not have any items not addressed on the agenda this evening. Under the Chief Executive's report, I just want to say that it's been said that I had stated that I don't believe there's any risks or health hazards from the active mining activities in Butte. I totally disagree with that statement. I realize that there could be health risks associated with the active mining, and that's exactly why we are putting together this committee. It's been said that the health department denies that there's any risks from mining activity in Butte-Silver Bow. That's utterly false also. Under the Chief Executive's report on Superfund, we're moving closer. We're still waiting for the approval from the federal government in D.C. on moving this forward, but it's expected to be coming out probably the first part of February, so we will wait and see what goes on there. Section 1, bid openings, public hearings and or presentations, and bid opening number 1, communication 2020-15. Mark Neary, Public Works Director, requesting Council of Commissioners to authorize a bid opening on January 22nd, 2020 for a 12-yard dump truck / plow truck and sander for the TIFID. Mr. Neary, the floor is yours. Do we have proof of publication, County Attorney Joyce?
Well, Mr. Chief Executive, there is proof of publication, and it does appear to be in order.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer and Commissioners. This is from I-State Truck Center in Missoula, Montana.
Mr. Chief Executive, there is a bid bond from a licensed surety company that appears to be in order.
Thank you.
Mr. Chief Executive, the total cost is $198,753. 198,753. Yes.
Is that the only bid?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I make a motion that we send the one and only bid back to the Public Works Department for their consideration.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded to refer the bid back to the Public Works Department for a recommendation back to this council. Is there anything on the question? Commissioner Anderson.
Did we have an estimate on this?
It's right on the sheet.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? All those in favor, please vote.
We're trying to.
Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
We have 10 yea and 0 nay.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
We're going to change the order of the agenda a little bit. We're going to go to the communications to be read and acted upon first, just to get these things into proper order for tonight's actions. Number one, communication number 2020-48. Josh O'Neill, Commissioner District Number 7, intends to make a motion of reconsideration of communication 2020-04 from the council meeting on January 8th, 2020. Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Bringing this forward, I mean, from our last meeting when we were discussing, how to, in regards to Mr. Rundle's request, I guess going back, we've had 2 requests consecutive weeks on, people with, they were going to lose their homes, and they both went through one tax sale, so on and so forth. I guess I had a change of heart going into, this coming into this week, because rules are rules. I get it, but I felt like in these 2 different situations, they need to be handled correctly and or fairly. And as regards to, given if we're, let me just quit stuttering here real quick. Yeah, we're given the same situation. I feel like 2 different. We looked at them 2 different ways. So I want to go back and have a reconsideration on the motion we had on January 8th to give 2 fair shots at the same situation. One Mr. Rundle's request was looked at, in my eyes, totally different because of his. They said it's because of his situation, which I think has no bearing. It is what it is. They were both tax situations that were put on, sold at the, you're going to be, they went to the first sale, didn't go through. Again, I guess this time, so I quit stuttering to all of you, I will make a motion to reconsider communication number 2020-40. Excuse me, 04.
Seconded.
We have a motion made and seconded to reconsider the action taken on communication 2020-04. Is there anything on the question? Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Just a clarification, I believe that we thought at one time that this would require a 2/3 vote, but County Attorney Joyce told me that it is a simple majority, just so you all know.
Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. I'd just like to state that these may be coming up in the future, and I personally feel that these should be held on an individual basis. Everybody's case is different, and just because we have 2 of them here now that one is one way and one's the other way, I would just like to see these voted on in the future on an individual basis rather than have, joining them together like this. That's just my comment. Thank you.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chief. With that being said, too, I know each case scenario is different. I agree. However, but this, for you guys, when you vote, this situation is the exact same. It has to do with property taxes, the property. We can't put this on an individual, personal thing on what these people are going through. Just because Mr. Rundle has had his lawyer up here and he's been clean for 3 years, there's nothing to do with that. I congratulate him. I'm happy for him on that. But that's true. That has nothing to do with the property taxes. The property taxes weren't paid. They went the same situation. They both got the letters. They both went to the first sale. Didn't get sold. It has nothing to do with that. Other than that, that's the truth. So when we're talking about these have to be looked on in each case scenario. The scenario is how the tax law works and how it's paid, right? What they do, has nothing to do with it. Okay? I just want you to know that, so thank you.
Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I wasn't going to say anything, but a couple of things moving forward is I've been on the commission a few years now, and thank God that we haven't had to deal with more than 2 of these, because this rates up on one of the tougher decisions that I've had to make up here on the council. At the end of the day, we say that these are different. I agree with Commissioner O'Neill. They're not different. They are owed taxes. There's probably not one person in this room that likes property taxes. I don't like paying them just like anybody else. But on top of that, I also understand that people have hard times and finances come into play and things happen in life. I get that. But I guess the problem that I have with both circumstances is people are out there saying that this is the first time they've heard about it. This is the first time that they knew that they were delinquent, and they need to look at their property. And this isn't the first time they heard about it. They both were notified on it. They both, in my opinion, didn't do anything at the time to try to remedy the situation in that time manner. I mean, Lori Baker Patrick, I've had to deal with her on some other things, and her door was always open, and she's been very professional and will help pretty much anybody through any problem that they have, as long as they come up with a problem and there's a way that she can help them work through it. And then both these properties both went to one tax sale already. They could have been sold for the first tax sale. Luckily, they weren't, for the people living in them. And then at that point, they came in and now they want to look for funding options, which they both did. They both went out and found funding options to bring their taxes back up to snuff. And now they can hopefully do this. I mean, there's no guarantee on either one of them. But at the end of the day, it's paid taxes, and not everybody likes it. But there's people out there that have made sacrifices to pay their property taxes that aren't in this condition. And to me, it's all the same. And I stand by what I voted a couple weeks ago, and I apologize for that. But thank you.
Anything further on the question?
Can I?
Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. So for me, this is not about whatever excuses were given by the parties when it was time to pay taxes or not pay taxes or whatever. There, but for the grace of God, go I and every single one of us in this room. We could all be hit with terrible circumstances that would land us in the same position, and it has nothing to do with your morals, your ethics, or any other thing that we judge people by if they pay their taxes or don't pay their taxes. The bottom line is two people are standing before us, or two parties looking for help right now. And when a man asks for help, you help him. And we don't have a tool where there is no provision in the law right now to allow us to help these folks. And what we want to do is build that tool, put that tool in the law, so there is a way that they can redeem their property if it does not sell at the first tax sale. They still have skin in the game. People who don't pay their taxes will likely lose their homes at the first tax sale. I believe that if we have somebody before us, they have cash in hand, they want to redeem their property and pay their taxes and make it good. I don't care who they are. It could be my neighbor. It could be my worst enemy. I would want this for any of them. So, thank you.
Anything further on the question? Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. I'd just like to say I concur with Commissioner Shea. Thank you.
Anything further? Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Can you just explain the process? So there is a motion to reconsider. If that passes, fails, just so everybody on the commissioner, I know Commissioner Callahan wasn't here for the first meeting, so if you could just outline the process, please.
I think I'll rely on the county attorney for this one. It's a motion to reconsider. The vote was taken. The vote was to deny the request to pull it from the tax sale to allow him to purchase his property before the next tax sale. So I'll let the county attorney explain what the actual vote means.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Morgan. So yes, the initial vote was to deny Mr. Townsend's request. If the council has to vote on reconsidering that action, and if the majority of the council votes to reconsider it, then that communication would be placed back on the agenda, and the council would have to take further action on that communication.
Does everyone understand what the motion is? Commissioner Shea.
Thank you. I just have a point of clarification for myself. There was a substitute motion made on that communication and then a motion, correct? Originally. Commissioner Anderson made a substitute motion, which failed.
Correct. And then we went back to
back to the original
motion.
Okay, so the reconsideration is just for the original. Is that right? Thank you.
Okay. Does everyone understand this is a motion to reconsider that vote? So, anything on the question? All those in favor? Here we go again. Will everyone please vote? Commissioner Fisher, did you?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Apparently, it looks like Mr. Townsend or Mr. Harper would like to speak. Can we allow that?
I don't know. Do you want something? We're just voting to reconsider the motion is all. So,
as to the question, I think Robert's rules allows input on the motion.
County Attorney Joyce.
Mr. Chief Executive, Mr. Harper, they don't go by Robert's rules. We use Mason's rules, but I think that a motion for reconsideration they have to decide whether to reconsider it, and it's really off the agenda until such time as they decide to put it back on, and then if it's back on the agenda, you can speak. But they're deciding right now through their rules whether or not they're going to reconsider their action that's already been finalized.
Tells you I haven't been here for 15 years, the last 5 weeks. Thank you.
everyone please vote. Anyone wishing to change their vote? I'll let you vote. Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
We have 6 yea and 4 nay votes.
Motion carries. We'll reconsider this communication after the next communication. So number 2 is Communication number 2020-46, Michelle Shea, Commissioner District Number 2, requesting Council of Commissioners consider establishing a process providing for the sale and disposition of real property during the period between the first tax sale auction and the second tax sale auction. This would require the county attorney to prepare and introduce such a resolution as provided. Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Again, this goes back to the same situation where properties went up for tax sale. They did not sell. By law, they are offered at a second tax sale. In between those tax sales, we have two parties who now have the means to redeem their properties. And there's currently no provision in the law that allows that. The county attorney has informed us that we have the council may authorize a process to allow redemption between tax sales. That is allowed by this body under state law, and my request is to have the county attorney assist us in preparing a resolution of intent, go through the public hearing processes, and see if the public is something that they would like this to be considered. Thank you.
Okay. Is that a motion or?
Sorry, thank you. I thought maybe someone else would like to ask some questions or speak.
Well, we can. Commissioner Anderson?
I'm sorry, thanks. So at this time, I would make the motion that we concur with communication 20-46 and refer this to the county attorney.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to establish a process for the sale between tax sales and have the county attorney prepare a resolution and have it introduced and go through the process. Is there anything on the question? Commissioner McDonough?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I made a vote last week to deny, and I made a vote tonight to reconsider because I'm curious for the discussion of the process. Is there anywhere in state statute that says that these are done on a case-by-case basis, that a property owner in town that has 30 or 40 properties that has 30, 40 of them in arrears, do they appear in front of the council 30 or 40 consecutive meetings, or can they lump their properties together, or is this process that can we define it so that it's not done on an individual basis and that they just pay their cash to the treasurer's office and we go our separate ways? Or is this demand that everybody is required to show up in the council chambers, explain their situation every week individually, and then we decide, which gets us into a sticky situation that we could support some and deny others, which doesn't set a very good precedence. So I'm just curious as to the process.
County Attorney Joyce?
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner McDonough. So basically, what the law states is that in between a first and second sale, if there aren't any qualifying bids at the first sale, then the county the property is retained by the county and subject to the provisions of Part 25. And it basically says if a bid is not received during the first sale, it says the board may dispose of the property as provided in Part 25, which is just, they're referring to statutes that are set forth in Title 7, Part 25. And so it doesn't, so then if you go to those sections, it doesn't talk about handling them on a case-by-case basis. Essentially what those statutes talk about is having a resolution passed that the catch-all phrase says that you put any other provision that the board considers necessary for the disposition of property that is in the best interest of the county and its citizens. There's other parts of that statute that indicate what else has to be in the resolution. But that's something that this council would have to kind of decide in terms of what they wanted in that resolution to be fair to everyone. for example, once the property is struck off to the county because there are no qualifying bids after the first sale, the property is no longer being assessed taxes because the county now has ownership of the property. So they're not, the treasurer's office isn't assessing penalties and interest during that period of time between the first and second sale. So it seems that it would be fair that you would want to ensure that somebody that's allowed to buy that property between the first and second sale would still have to pay those penalty and interest that would have been assessed had they still owned the property, because otherwise they're benefiting from the fact that they didn't buy it at the first sale, if that makes sense, because the penalty and interest are stopped accruing. So those are the kind of things that the council would have to direct as to what is in that resolution. Also, you know, how many times are you going to allow a taxpayer to do this? If it's just once, are you going to set a deadline that they have to, you know, make this request within 3 months after the first sale, or what's the period of time? Can it be right up to the deadline of the second sale? There are considerations that this council should decide if they are going to implement a resolution or a process on what's going to happen between the first and second sale. And it has to be something that's applied consistently and fairly to everybody, so that you set forth those types of conditions in the resolution that can be applied in the same way to every request.
Follow up, Commissioner McDonough.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. If we do establish a resolution then with the criteria, can we eliminate them from coming in front of the body every time that they arise, and they just go straight to the treasurer's office and pay their taxes and be done with it? Or do they, by statute, need to appear in front of the body?
County Attorney Joyce.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner McDonough, if I understand your question, first of all, it's up to the council to decide whether you want to. You know, again, the board may dispose of the property by passing this resolution, so it's not something that you have to do. But if the council were to establish that process, the resolution would dictate how those, how you do it, you know. So if you pass the resolution and it kind of explained, this is how this is what we're going to do, it would kind of explain to every citizen on how that process would work. But I would still think there would have to be some kind of a communication probably to this body, so that the treasurer's office would have some ability to, I guess, be directed on how you know, they wanted that sale to occur. And again, that's going to kind of depend on how specific your resolution language is.
Yeah, if I might add, I think it's up to this council to determine how it's going to be written, but I would recommend that, you know, once it's stricken off on the tax sale and turned over to the county, basically, even though we can't do anything with it, sell it until the next tax sale, it's still Butte-Silver property between, as soon as the first tax sale goes by with nobody purchasing it. At that time, that property would be posted. And then I would think that you could put some criteria in the resolution that they have 5 days from the date of posting to notify the county that they intend to purchase it again. That would it would cover any oversight on their part, because once there's a posted notice on the front door, they're going to know that they have to vacate the property. So I think that would start the process, and then if they follow through and come up to this governing body or to the treasurer's office stating their intent to purchase the property, and I think there should be maybe a administration fee that goes along with it, but that would be determined in the resolution at the time that this council drafts it. But then, so getting to my point tonight, if we do decide to withdraw or take these two properties off of the next tax sale, I think that there should be a condition on it that as soon as the resolution is passed, these people have to pay or follow whatever rules are in that resolution, because otherwise they could go on forever. And but I think that so the motion is going to have some conditions on it if you do strike it from the next tax sale, in my opinion. I would recommend that. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Yeah, I mean, that brings up one of my concerns. I have two that I'll explain here in a minute. The first concern is after the first tax sale, the property becomes Butte-Silver Bowes at that point. So the one concern that I have with these two before us is to draft a resolution and for us to agree on what's going to be in that resolution. Could be 2 months, could be a month before we figure out that. Where does that leave these gentlemen? Does it leave them, they're living in property that's owned by Butte-Silver Bowes, so what kind of liability reasons does Butte-Silver Bowes have if something happens in between today and the time we draft the resolution? I mean, like I said, that could be 2 months from now. So that needs to be addressed. On the flip side, it could go to tax sale in 2 weeks, and hopefully they would be the bidder. There's no guarantee on it, and then they get their property and there's no issues that we would have to deal with. Looking at these separately, I mean, that's easy for me to say that because we're dealing with that before us. I don't know what the answer on the legality. I'll leave that to the attorneys on liability, of insurance purposes, of everything that's in that house, that type of stuff. And I think that needs to be thought of, at least by the commissioners. The other comment that I will say in regards to this communication is I agree with Commissioner Shea, we need to do some things. But to me, and I might be naive in thinking this way, but right now everybody is held at the same standard. Everybody's required to pay their taxes. If they don't pay their taxes, then it goes into the process that you gentlemen were in, where the Treasurer's Office sends out notice. They go through proper notification. They go through newspaper ads. They go through that. So to me, everybody's held at the same standard. By having this mechanism to allow people to redeem after the first sale, I'm afraid that the political side of it is going to take hold in it, because this body becomes the judge and jury at that point. And if Mr. Harper is before us, are we going to act differently because he's before us with a client than somebody that's not being represented? So where do we as a commission, how do we define what we can deny and what we can't deny? Because take these two examples, they're similar but different. Just ask yourself, would you vote one way on one and one way on the other? And I would be afraid of that for discrimination purposes going forward, where right now everybody in this whole city is held to that same bar, that same table. And if anybody has input on that, I would appreciate that.
If I may, to alleviate that concern, I think however you draft the resolution, you come up with the guidelines in that. It doesn't have to come back to this body as long as they meet the guidelines in that resolution. Within so many days of the posting of the property that it becomes Butte-Silver property, they have to come up with a plan presented to the treasurer or whatever. It's not yes you can or no you can't. It's if they meet the criteria of the resolution, whatever's in that resolution. If it's an administrative fee they have to pay on to the top of the taxes owed, so be it. If they do that, then it's done. It wouldn't come back to this council. It'd come back to the government to make sure that they follow the resolution to do however you spell out the resolution, I would think. Follow-up, Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Does anybody have an example of what would be in the resolution, of what it would say? I mean, does it say your property go, if you go to the first sale and it doesn't sell and you come up with the funding, then wholeheartedly you go and pay your taxes and you're done? I mean, is that how it's worded, or is there conditions in there that we're going to set forth? Has anybody ever seen conditions in a similar document? To me, if it's going to be any condition, it's within 10 days you have the full amount payable today, and then that's it. If you don't, or 5 days, then you don't. I mean, maybe that's one way to word it. So, thank you.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chief Executive. And going back on your question of that, if it'd go to the first sale, if it wasn't sold, then we'd have a time period between the first sale and the second sale. There would be a fee of whatever percentage of the taxes owed, and then each day concurring from, say if it's 60 days from sale 1 to sale 2, each day on that would be, whether it was interest or a fee, so it would accrue up the whole time, and then if you came in at 31 days prior after that, then you'd pay this amount of money, including the administration fee. It is going to cost more money, but at least that there is the opportunity for the owner to come get it between the first and the second sale. With the question on the insurance, that's another thing. Maybe we, obviously should address as well in that resolution. Where are we held liable on that? I'm not sure, but I think for it to come back to this body, I believe between the first and the second sale, it wouldn't have to if they met the guideline of all the fees that would, yada yada. Thank you.
Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. I think Chief Executive Palmer come up with a good solution to a resolution. And I don't think we're here to write the resolution tonight. I think there's a lot to it. I think Chief Executive Palmer had some great ideas. I think Commissioner Morgan having a 10-day or something period in there is a great idea. I think all these are great ideas to allow people to salvage their property and keep them off the tax rolls, because the whole idea is to keep these things off the tax rolls and keep people paying taxes in our county. That's what we want. So I think this is a possibility to get done. I just don't think we're going to do it sitting here tonight talking about a resolution. I think this is something that's either got to go to the county attorney or the Judiciary Committee and be discussed fully. And I think in order to alleviate any problems, if we could find a way to pull these two from the first tax sale, give them the opportunity, as Chief Executive Palmer said, they have to abide by what the resolution says, terms and conditions at that time. I think we've resolved. I think it's a win-win situation. So I don't know if I need to make a motion or substitute motion, but that is what I think. I think there's an out, and I think we should use it.
Okay.
Is that a motion? I know, but he said substitute. So.
County Attorney Joyce.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer and Commissioner Fisher. I understand your point that maybe you're not going to be able to say what's in, draft the resolution tonight, but if this council is going to request that I draft a resolution, I need to know what's going to be in it. And so I need some direction in terms of what this council has decided. There's discussion, obviously, on what's appropriate to be in that resolution, but, as I indicated, making them pay the penalty and interest that would have accrued, talk about an administrative fee, talk about the time period and all those kind of things. Those types of things are not up to me to decide in drafting this resolution. I mean, if you want me to draft a resolution, you have to tell me what's supposed to be in it.
Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. Thank you, Eileen. I feel kind of partially responsible for this since I was harping on it quite a bit the other day, or a few weeks ago. Days all kind of blurred together. But one of the things that I wanted to do when I first stressed this, when I made the original motion that we was denied before the the motion that we just reversed earlier tonight. But one of the things that I wanted to do, and I think would be very necessary, is to, like was stated, is access any fees, taxes, or anything that that makes it, we can't let people skate on this. I think we're all in agreement for that. I think it's going to put a burden on Lori Baker and her office, and I think that they're going to have a lot more paperwork and stuff to do. And so I suggested a fee at that time, and all back penalties and everything, and I think that's a good starting off point. And if council would like, I'd be more than happy to work with county attorney on that front with that and help write something, and then it could be brought before judiciary and they could modify it as they saw fit as a committee.
Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. Could we allow Mr. Harper to speak, please?
Mr. Harper.
I think I have it on, not off. 15 years plus I went without even coming to the commission meeting, and now I've been here 5 times in 7 weeks. I came to speak in favor of my nephew and Eric Mankins' motion. What happened to Mr. Townsend while I was here led me to not only offer him, but actually offer both of these pro bono. I'm not charging him a nickel to try to address an issue that, as an old school board member and chairman and in this commission, I commend you all. I'm not going to say anyone made a great motion, anyone made a bad motion, because you all do work that you have to decide while you're standing here. And when I was on the school board, I always said, don't vote for these 30 people or for Wayne. Vote for the 30,000 people that aren't here. And I agree completely with Mr. Morgan. This needs to be fair for everyone. The issue becomes the law. And I'm an attorney. The law is what Ms. Joyce told you 2 weeks ago. County Attorney Joyce told you. 7-8-2301 controls it. And it says go to Chapter 25. Chapter 25 says, purposes of this part, and I quote, the purposes of this part are to authorize the Board of the County Commissioners to acquire real property and to establish procedures for the disposal of real property so that the property is used or disposed of in the best interests of the county and the public benefit and welfare. Other than the 4 largest Indian reservations in Montana, Butte-Silver has more non-tax property than any other county. Shockingly, we're the smallest county in Montana. We have a lot of property out there that isn't earning taxes. This allows you, the law allows you to pass this resolution so you can address these issues. 4 of them have come up in the last 7 years. Nothing you pass should impact that. What you pass isn't my business. I have faith that you'll pass the right thing, period. Nothing you pass will impact that because 4 people in 7 years didn't buy it at the first sale. You're not going to be dealing with this, Commissioner McDonough, I want to call him Brendan, on a day-by-day basis. This resolution should pass so that it's dealt with by Lori. And by the way, I've had to deal with Lori on a personal issue, not a problem. Never have been treated better never been treated worse either, by the way, by an employee in this building. Everyone treats people with respect, I think. Along those lines, there's some misinformation that I think makes you think these are different cases. I went to County Attorney Joyce's office and did the research. Mike Townsend has never been charged with a crime or suspected of a crime. People that stood up and said that he's doing crimes or people that put it in the paper are dead wrong. Are we filing defamation suits or anything? Not in my office. But that's dead wrong. And County Attorney Joyce can tell you that isn't out there. These people, I went through the records. I'm an attorney. I couldn't tell you if they were current or not. In the way the tax records read, 2015 for Mr. Townsend specifically. Current, it says. Took me about a day and a half to figure out it means currently owed, not currently paid. On the other one, it said, did he pay 2015? Yes. Unfortunately, you as a commission decide stuff much like a school board on the people that show up in front of you and on what little you have. If all the facts were known on people that are in rehab and in issues, ADA qualified, and people that took over a property in 2017, have been to the dump 20 times trying to take care of the sins of the past, mainly of their brother, not of the dad. I think what you need to pass is some resolution that can deal with these 4 or 5 of these that will come up every 4 or 5 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. Anything further? Commissioner McDonough.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Moving back to Commissioner Fisher's comments, I don't think we can resolve this tonight with a simple resolution. I mean, most resolutions that we write or ordinances, it takes a great deal of consideration so that you do it right. Otherwise, we're just going to subject ourselves, to comments to the public, to comments from departments that we haven't even asked how it's going to affect them. We have 2 department heads that are sitting out there that it's going to affect them way more than it's going to affect me as a commissioner making a decision tonight. I mean, they'll have to deal with the day-to-day and the paperwork. There's probably more than 2. It's probably 4 or 5 departments that are going to pick up the slack from whatever we decide. I don't think that it's going to be resolved tonight, and unfortunately for the 2 clients here, I apologize for that. I just don't think that a decision tonight on a resolution, we each probably have our own different requirements that we want to throw out there, but we're not going to do it right, I wouldn't think. I also have reservation, maybe not from the 2 that are standing in front of us, but we do have people in town that have 20, 30, 40 properties, rentals. They have 20, 30, or 40 of those rentals in arrears, and they have liens on the properties. And those liens are us addressing concerns with the property owner. It's Butte-Silver, like community enrichment or another department going out to do the work for these properties that the property owner didn't do, and then we have to take it upon ourselves as a county to do the right thing for the citizens and the neighbors and go clean it up for them. And then they're going to come back and they play a game. They really do. I think if you ask anybody, and I'm not talking about the 2 in front of us specifically, but we have people that wait 3 years to pay the liens on their property that are in arrears. So we could go address issues now, today, or tomorrow, and wait 3 full years before we get the $4,700 or the $8,200. And it puts the community and our budget process and Butte-Silver in a bind every year, every single year. And, those are my comments. I hope that we would take the time to really consider this and send it out to the Judiciary Committee, or instead of trying to formulate, we've got a gallery full of people here tonight and a full agenda, and we're going to write a resolution in a regular meeting. I've never seen this done before, so I hope that we think about that before we do anything.
Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I might have a point of order on me, but when is the best time to address the liability on the properties before us tonight? Because the resolution that's before us tonight, if we pass it, I don't know how we address these 2 problems with the liability of it, because they're being held until we come up with this resolution on that. I don't know if insurance would be a requirement in this resolution, or if that's even something for this body to look at, that it would be a requirement to have it insured to show that it's insurable to be lived in. I mean, there's so much that we could do.
If I may, it may or may not be a condition of the resolution, but it could be a condition of the motion made this evening when you remove these from the tax sale to...
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chief Executive, but I don't know how people can get insurance on property that they no longer own. The property's in Butte-Silver Bow's name now, so I don't know that either of these two gentlemen could go and obtain an insurance policy for these properties in their name when the property is not in their name right now.
Mr. Harper.
If I may, for the 6 months between the first sale and the second sale, that liability is the exact same. They're living on your property. Your resolution should take care of that in the fact that they still need insurance to cover at least some part of their buildings and stuff. And I think Eileen's County Attorney Joyce is exactly right. It's kind of hard to get insurance on property you don't own, but you certainly can get insurance on the buildings and the things, the personal property you have on the place to maybe better help you even in this 6 months that you already are in the exact same.
Mrs. Gleason, did you have a comment?
Chief Executive Palmer, kind of pushing these insurance questions out there because of the risk of Butte-Silver Bow. I mean, we go through MMIA for our properties. We control our properties. We control who lives in our properties, how they function, and how they live. So a couple rentals that we have, we control all those aspects. I think during this period of time, if we don't have control, and people can live in there and burn a place down or hold parties or do whatever they might do, and somebody gets hurt on these properties, I'm very concerned of how that impacts our insurance and our future insurance. I hope it's something you take into consideration as you move forward.
Commissioner Shea.
Thank you. So can I just ask the obvious question, and then I'll have a follow-up? If Butte-Silver Bow owns the property now, why are they occupied by the former homeowners?
County Attorney Joyce.
Well, Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Shea, that's a question that other people in the public have asked, and the reason is because we would have to initiate an eviction action if they're not willing to leave, and each of these individuals, came forward and said that they wanted to bring something toward this body to look at the possibility of whether there's a process in between the first and second sale, and given the timing of their communications, and how much time you have to answer a civil complaint, I wanted to see how this played out before we initiated any kind of eviction actions.
Follow-up, Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. If the chairman of the judiciary and the county attorney would indulge me, and if I could play Commissioner O'Neill's new guy card for procedure, would it be more logical for the motion that I have made to be rescinded and a motion made to refer this to the Judiciary Committee to draft the resolution? I was just under the impression that it needed to be requested to have the county attorney do that, but that definitely should go through judiciary. I was not ever intending to come and write a resolution at a regular meeting. That was never my intention, so I don't know how that got sideways other than maybe I just didn't understand the procedure. So if somebody could answer that for me.
Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I can't answer that question, but one that I can ask the county attorney, because I know we've done it before when I was an early commissioner, is we had the committee of the whole act as the Judiciary Committee at one point, and that does a couple of things. It allows input from all the commissioners to the resolution, and it also allows more of a defined, or it doesn't define the time as much as what judiciary has, as we found out with communication a couple weeks ago. Is judiciary works awesome, everybody in it does great, but there is that half-hour window, and this is one topic that might take more than a half hour to completely flush it out. Now that I said all that, I don't know the procedure to do that. I think it's a motion that we move it to
refer to the committee of the whole sitting as judiciary committee.
So that's the motion.
Get it there. Commissioner McDonough.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Commissioner Shea, this was no way directed directly at you. This is a blanket statement saying that it's going to take a lot longer to consider this. I admire the fact that you put the communication forward for the discussion. Apparently there's a loophole that none of us were aware of. I mean, this is the first in 8 years. These are the first two tax redemption cases or communications that have been in front of the body. But at this time, I'll make a motion that we refer communication number 2020-46 to the Committee of the Whole acting as the Judiciary Committee, and we can work on it with the 12 of us together and have more discussion. That was my motion. Substitute motion, yes.
We have a motion made and seconded to refer communication 2020-46 to the Committee of the Whole sitting as the Judiciary Committee. Is there anything on the question? Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. Question for Chief Executive Palmer and the County Attorney. Does this body have the authority to allow these two parties to redeem their property with all fees and the amount owed by February 1st, pull them from the tax sale, and then write a resolution for future problems? Is that a possibility?
County Attorney Joyce, your reason why it can't be.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Fisher, no, because these two requests are still subject to the same statutory provisions that we've been talking about. So, I mean, the law basically says between the first and second sale, you know, that this body may dispose of the property as provided in Title 25. And what Title 25 requires is that this resolution be passed and a public hearing be held. So you can't, I think I said this several weeks ago, but the law used to be that in between the first and second tax sale that you could negotiate a sale of property, but now it's been replaced by this process where you have to pass a resolution and have a public hearing. So your choices, I think, are to, you know, obviously you can pass this motion to decide on how you're going to draft this resolution, but in terms of the two communications that are now sitting out there by Mr. Townsend and Mr. Rundle, you can, you know, decide to hold them in abeyance and let them still go to the tax sale and bid if they want to, or you can take them off the tax sale pending this process going through and still have to hold them in abeyance until after the resolution is goes through the process and is passed, or if it isn't passed, then you have another problem.
Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Again, going back to the liability question, what do we do with that? I mean, do we start the eviction process now, or what? I mean, it's been in an open meeting that Butte-Silver Bow is liable for people living on our property. How do we address that? I mean, because I get this resolution. I mean, I'm not supporting it right now because of what we have before us. It'd be nice to deal with these separate. But But that's my question, is the liability that we have that's been acknowledged, what do we do?
County Attorney Joyce.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Morgan. So Butte-Silver Bow has and always will have liability for all properties that don't sell at a first tax sale. Any properties that are struck out to the county, not just these two, but there's typically several that don't sell at a first tax sale. I think we are getting better at having less property subject to tax sale, but one thing that we could consider is having less of a time period. It says within 6 months. Maybe we shorten that period, to 3 months or something. But that's not an easy question to answer. The properties are struck off to Butte-Silver Bow. They're in our name, and we have to make decisions on keeping track of those properties. And if you do want, it's going to be something that is a consideration in drafting this resolution, because that's another factor, that you want to talk about. How much time do people have to make that kind of a request, so that there's a less period of time where it's in Butte-Silver Bow's name and our liability is lessened due to the time frame. But it's never going to completely go away, because we do have liability once those properties are struck off to Butte-Silver Bow.
Follow up, Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you for that, and I understand that moving forward. My question is on these two. I mean, a resolution gets drafted, and then we go through and we pass it. How long does it take to go into effect? Is it 30 days, or is it immediately after passage of the resolution? That's my concern, and that's with these two. That's my concern with those two. Going forward, we can say after 5 days from the first sale, you have to have the money, and then you can redeem it. That we can handle with the resolution. My concern is the liability with the two before us. Again, point of order on me, if it needs to be. When's the best time to discuss that?
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Morgan, I think you're going to still discuss their two communications later tonight, so you could discuss it then. Again, I don't know. You're in a difficult position because of the timing of this sale. I couldn't even introduce a resolution before February 5th, which is the date of the next tax sale. And since we don't even know what we want to put in the resolution, it probably won't be introduced until after the second tax sale happens for these two properties.
Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I'm just sitting here listening. I try to be a good listener, and I did talk to Eileen in length this afternoon about a lot of things. My background is legal also. I was never a lawyer, but I worked with a lot of lawyers, and I do worry about liability. I think what we're dealing with are two separate things, and I did second Commissioner McDonough's motion to go forward with a resolution. We need a policy, a process of some sort, starting with whenever we vote on it, and who knows if the resolution will even be approved. That's the other thing that I worry about. What if we go through all this exercise and then it doesn't go, get approved? So anyway, two different things. The resolution, I am for trying to never have to go through this again or let other people have to go through this again, with having a policy in place that we are happy with, and that we will have a public hearing, we'll listen to public input. The second thing is that the two gentlemen that are before us tonight, with their concerns and also their requests for repurchasing their properties, I don't see we're putting the resolution is the cart before the horse, because we don't have it yet. Now we have a couple of people that we've already decided on one, and the other is held in abeyance, which has got to be, a sleep-depriving thought for these folks, not knowing what's happening.
But I do believe that we have these two communications are going to be brought forward later in the meeting, and I think that's when we need to decide on those two things. We have 14 items. I don't know if you looked at your packet that was given to us by Lori. We have 14 items. Some of them are just land. I think 9 are properties on our tax sale coming up on February 5th. What about the other 10 or 12 that aren't here to represent themselves? Maybe they didn't even know this was happening. You know, a lot of people, I think everyone knows what we're doing up here, but trust me, they don't. And that concerns me. So we have a real conundrum here, and I think we have to be very careful about liability. I am all over that, like Commissioner Morgan is. I'm sure these two folks have no intent to do anything to put us in a position, but we are a deep pocket. Things happen, and we all know things happen. And so I'm very concerned about that, but I fully support going forward with and trying to put together some kind of a policy that we can follow. Thank you.
Anything further on the question? Everyone understand the motion? Substitute motion to refer this to the Committee of the Whole sitting as judiciary. That's what it'll be doing is draft a resolution. Everyone please vote. Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
We have 6 yea and 4 nay.
Motion carries. Next, we will go to Communication 2020-04. That's the one on. We're reconsidering the motion. Oh, might be here for a couple more hours, Ed, if we don't jump you to the next.
Well, I can stick around. I just thought I was up next.
So let's go to communication number 2020-21. No, 20. Jesus, long night. 25. Ed Lester, Butte-Silver Sheriff, requesting Council of Commissioners authorize the Chief Executive to respectfully request your concurrence in recognizing Officer LaCour, badge number 122, as a permanent officer of the Butte-Silver Bowl Law Enforcement Department. Sheriff Lester.
Mr. Chief Executive, members of the council, I'm Sheriff Ed Lester, 3032 Edward Street here in Butte. Officer Shaquille LaCour has completed his 1-year probationary period. He's done a fantastic job. He's way ahead of where we would expect a 1-year officer to be. So I would ask your concurrence in confirming him as a permanent member of the Butte-Silver Bowl Law Enforcement Department.
Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I'll make a motion that we concur with Communication 2020-25 and place on file for Commissioner LaCour.
Second.
Officer LaCour.
Officer.
He's not. He hasn't been around long enough to call him a commissioner. Nor is he that crazy.
What did I say, Commissioner?
Yes, you did.
Officer LaCour, badge number 122.
I second that motion.
Okay. We have a motion made and seconded to confirm Officer LaCour, badge number 122, as a permanent member of the Butte-Silver Bowl Law Enforcement Department. Is there anything on the question? Commissioner Anderson.
Sheriff Lester, where is he?
He's out there working tonight and opted to stay out there working, and I have to say I agree with him.
Good answer, Ed.
He could work or come to council, and he chose the better. Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
We have 10 yea and 0 nay.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. What's that? Okay. You do the presentation. Okay, next we're going to do communication number 4. 2020-21, Julia Jack Shaw, Headwaters RC&D Director, requesting Council of Commissioners permission to give a presentation on January 22nd, 2020, to provide an update on the Lizzie Block Pedestrian Alley Project update and plans for the 2020 season. Julie.
Good evening. My name is Julie Jackshaw. I'm with Headwaters RC&D. I reside at 3251 South Montana Street here in Butte. I wanted to come back and say thank you to the council and to the commissioners. For last year, I came before you and asked for a pilot program to close the alley behind the M&M and put up some lighting and try some things out back there. And I just wanted to give you guys a quick update. I didn't realize your meeting would go quite this in depth, so I will make it extremely quick for you. Try not to screw this up. So last year, if you remember right, we came before you and asked to temporarily close the alley so that we could try a pilot project. I put together kind of a presentation of what we've done in the alley, and as well as some future plans that I'm here before you tonight to ask for your permission to move forward with. This picture was taken in the alley behind the M&M there, and I think this is probably one of the coolest pictures that was sent to me. It's been spread around. It's been used in other media across the state to show what we've done in Butte. This project has kind of taken on its own grassroots meaning. I want to go forward. There, that's me. That just talks about me and the fact that I wanted to do this project and why I picked this alley. I think that this alley is instrumental to Uptown Butte. I think it's the heart of Uptown Butte. We have had folks in that have visited the Uptown area, EDA, DEQ, folks from out of the state, and they have all commented that this really made sense, that this was a great project to put in our Uptown area. If you remember right, when I came before you, I was about activating the alleyway, making it a space that drew people into it, which I know when you're talking about an alley in Uptown Butte, you may think, why would you want to do that? As you can see from the pictures that I'm going to share with you, it's been really successful. And this trend is starting to grow across the United States. We're seeing activated alleyways. This is probably the best picture in the whole presentation. You will see on the left there that before the alley, that's the day that you guys cleaned the alley for us. That's what came out of that alley, that one cleaning. And then this is how the alley looked for the rest of the summer. We were very fortunate that CCCS, Mike Thatcher, stepped up and offered one of his his folks to help us keep the alley clean. They patrolled the alley twice a day, as well as my staff and the folks that are aligned on the alley. So this on the right is typically how the alley looked all summer long, and I think that's really an accomplishment for us. The 5 things that we did last year in the short amount of time that we had it, we cleaned the alley, we installed the lights thanks to R&R Electric. The lights were donated by Northwestern Energy, and R&R Electric took their time and supplies and put the lights up for us. We bought the bistro tables. Those were paid for by the actual businesses that are there on the alleyway. Headframe Spirits gave us the whiskey barrels, and my husband and I made them cut them in half, and we put some flowers in them and put them in the alley. And then we also were able to hold 4 or 5 events in the alley, which I hope some of you made it to. We did a movie night with the help of Butte-Silver Bow. We showed Moana. We had 59 people show up for that movie night. We gave away popcorn and Roy Rogers and Shirley Temples. It was really well received. We also did a yoga. So inside 5518, they did yoga, and then out in the back, they had like a networking session. It was really, really popular. And then the Irish dancers danced in the alley. These are some pictures that I wanted to share with you that have been shared with me of events and things that have happened in the alley. There's been senior pictures taken in the alley. There's been wedding pictures taken in the alley. There have been lunch, people having lunch there. The picture there is from our movie night on the south, and then you see Miss Dorn. She insisted that we light a candle and have a tablecloth on the table when we had lunch back there. That's what it looked like the night of the alley presentation. And the comments out to the side were just, love the feel of this. It feels like we're in Old Town Europe. This is a great thing to see in Butte. People are activating towards change and progress. The ability to sit and visit in Uptown Butte. There are not enough quiet little spaces in Butte that have the ability to enhance the experience of sitting quietly, having beverages, and talking with friends. And the last one that I would share with you is, I've enjoyed having the table and chairs to sit with my kids while we enjoyed the Uptown area, strolled around to see what Uptown had, and re-experienced my youth. The vision going forward for the Lizzie Block, that's why I'm really here tonight. We put in a request for SARTA funds, and we asked for just $9,700. We were successful in that request. Some of the things that we want to use the money for. You'll see here an example of the gated archway there. So we'd like to put up a gated archway that welcomes people into the alley. We've already got someone locally that has stepped up and said that they would love to design it and erect it for us. We did get the funding through SARTA to help pay for that. We'd like to put more greenery in the alley. We'd like to install more tables in the alley and chairs, and then a chalkboard wall for chalkboard art and hold competitions. This is an example of Freak Alley. I don't know how many people here have visited Freak Alley, but in Boise, it is actually voted as the #1 art gallery for the Southwest area in Idaho because of the art that they display. So every 2 years, artists will submit what they'd like to do on the sides of these buildings, and then they meet and they select the artists, and then the walls are prepared and they'll redraw the art. And so that's something that we're looking at. We actually have 4 artists that have agreed to do murals on the buildings in the alleyway, and the owners of those buildings have also agreed to allow that to happen. We had a meeting with Mary McCormick, and we're working to make sure that it meets her guidelines, the guidelines of Butte-Silver Bow, and of course the owners of the buildings. That's just kind of a budget breakdown, some things that we applied for. We thought garbage cans were a necessity, the metal planters to block off the alley, the overhead arch I think will make it great, some additional lightings, and then something new is a mobile stage. So our vision for this is to have programming in the alley, whether it be acoustic guitar, 3-piece little band, maybe some poetry reading by folks. We really want to make it a place where it's used and it's utilized and people can go there. So the mobile stage was part of our presentation to SARTA that was awarded and funded, and we hope to have that complete here by April. This is kind of a breakdown of our timeline. April, we hope to have everything pretty much in place so that May 1st, that is the first art walk in Uptown Butte. And what we want to do that day is have the artists actually working live in the alley on the murals, as well as put some art through the alley. That's our first big event. And then we want to do like a celebration of the alley mid-season and have the alley be open the remainder of the season. These are the folks that have helped us along the way to get this done, and I just want to say thank you real quick to Karen Burns and her team. She has been very supportive in this project. She has helped me along the way. She has made it very easy to communicate with and to get things done. I want to thank the business owners, Gamers, Butte Originals, Wayne Pathausen, Rhodey Holman, Jeff Francis, 5518 Designs, Beautiful Butte, and the M&M. They have all given not only their time and their effort with helping me to keep the alley clean and to pull the stuff in and out every night and to buy certain things for it. Something that I mentioned that I'll have to come back to the council for permission is they'd like to put antique signs off the back of each building, kind of as a placemaker so that you know the buildings are identified. They've actually gone out and we've had the signs designed, and I have to first appear before the zoning board to ask for permission to have those signs hung, and then I have to bring it forward to you folks. But that's something that we're working on as well for the alley. I guess why I'm here tonight, I'm going to read the 2 letters real quick and then I'm going to be done, but I'm hoping that you guys, that the commissioners and the chief executive will consider closing the alley temporarily for the season from May to September. And the reason why I'm asking that is, last year when we did it as a pilot program, it was closed from 8 a.m. to, let's say, 9 a.m. at night. And what that meant was that someone had to go and remove the gates and allow for access to the alley and put all this stuff away. And it worked great. It was a lot of work. By us closing the alley temporarily, I'm not suggesting that if the police or fire or utility trucks had to get in that alley that we would say, oh no, we've got the alley closed, you can't come. But more so just so that we don't have to do that every single night. We'd like to put an area back there that we could store the stuff in each night instead of the folks having to bring it inside their businesses. And of course we'd be respectful to keep it out of the way so that you could still drive up and down the alley. But that's just something that we came we had a meeting, the property owners and myself, last week, and that was something that we wanted to bring up to the commissioners. The 2 letters of support, I apologize, I left the one here with you, and I'll have to forward the other one. I'm just going to read those real quick and then take any questions if you have any. This is from Jeff Francis with the Piccadilly Museum. To whom it may concern, I voice my full support for the Lizzie Block Alley improvements. Just by blocking it off and lighting it in the summer of 2019 made the alley safer and virtually eliminated the vagrants and drunks that use the alley as a toilet, a place to intake illegal drugs, and hassle citizens. Having the summer movies in the alley was a big plus, as many families and children thoroughly enjoyed that night. I would like to see security cameras in the alley, and I have offered he has offered to actually pay for some of those to be installed. But he put in his letter, various areas around Uptown Butte, as vandalism is a huge problem for the businesses and building owners. If it would be nice to have Butte-Silver Bow install some of the cameras or give partial grants to business owners to install and monitor them. Continuing improvements in the Lizzie Block Alley will only improve and enhance the experience of coming to Uptown Butte. And then the other one that I'll just read to you very quickly is from 5518. And I apologize that you don't have it, but by the time I was here and he sent it to me, I couldn't print it off. But he put, Dear Chief Executive, I'm reaching out to you to express my support of the planned improvements to the Lizzie Block pedestrian alley in Uptown. As a business owner immediately adjacent to the alley, it has proven its worth to the neighborhood and the business district during its pilot season of 2019. I'm excited to see the alley blossom as a beautiful, celebrated destination for visitors and Butte citizens. In meeting with Julie Jackshaw and those working on the Lizzie this winter, I feel the improvements are thoroughly planned and will be a good fit for the public space. I hope you, as well as the council, see these plans, specifically the business signage and entry arch, as a way to honor our heritage while reinventing the future of this space. These pieces will draw visitors to a unique asset of our Uptown Business District, advertise the businesses along the alley, and create a welcoming atmosphere celebrating the space. Additionally, I believe that the necessary amenities such as garbage cans, flower pots, dog poop dispensers will improve the aesthetics of the space and further create a place we can all enjoy. Both myself and 5518 Design strive to create and support unique and innovative ideas in order to help create a vision of our community we all hope for. Development of this urban pedestrian mall is one strategy in the direction of an even more vibrant business district in which people will seek to spend their time and money. We fully support the alley project, the new signage, and the improvements planned for the summer of 2020, and hope that you will offer your support as well.
Thanks, Julie. Any questions from the council? Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I don't really have a question. I just want to say thank you to you and your staff and everybody that had a hand in this, because I think it's really great. The feedback that I got from people talking to me about it, they were all for it, and they're really enjoying it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I also just want to thank you for thinking outside the box on this one, not allowing the gum wall like we talked about.
I didn't forget, Josh.
The chalkboard, just as I'll say again, be caution of that. We've tried that design, and we've had some inappropriate items appear on chalkboard, so be aware of that. Thirdly, if you are going to come back to this body to close the alley, I personally would ask that you get all the business owners to sign off on it. At the end of the day, it's still an alley. The last thing that I would want to do is affect their business if they get deliveries or any of that stuff. So I would like you to consider that. And lastly, please go back to slide number 1 and make sure that dog is on a leash. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further? Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Chief Executive. I was under the impression the gum wall was already started, and I've already started that gum wall on the M&M, so I do apologize to the owner of the M&M that I'll remove the gum thing.
Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I'll make a motion that we place communication 2020-21 on file.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to place communication 2020-21 on file. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? As soon as we hear the toilet flush, we'll know. Archie.
We'll vote yes.
Yea or nay?
Anyone wishing to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
There are 10 yea and 0 nay.
Motion carries. Now we have to go to the one that we made the motion to reconsider, which is Communication 2020-04. Michael Townsend requesting Council of Commissioners to consider the repurchase of my home located at 105 West Porphyry. I will comply. You could. Yeah, I guess as long as we can pull that one out and send it back to this one. Okay. Okay. All right, we're going to give everyone a break here and do the consent agenda first.
Going to Plan B.
Not everyone a break, but just the audience. So the consent agenda A 1 through 4 and B 1 through 25. Commissioner, are there any segregations or friendly amendments? Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I'd like to segregate number 12, Communication 2020-33, please.
Any other segregations?
Jim? No?
I hope someone segregates the committee of the whole. Commissioner Morgan.
Thanks, Mr. Chief Executive. I'll make a she-he motion right now. I'd like to segregate out of the committee of the whole number 5, Communication 19-578.
Okay. Any other segregation? Okay. Seeing none. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I make a motion that we approve Section 1, the consent agenda, A, the committee reports 1 through 4, with the exclusion of number 5, Communication 19-578, B, Communications 1 through 25, with the exclusion of number 12, 2020-13.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to approve the consent agenda A 1 through 4, exclusive of Communication number 5 in the Committee of the Whole Report 19-518. And then B 1 through 25, exclusive of number 12. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
We have 10 yea and 0 nay.
Motion carries. So we'll go to Committee of the Whole Meeting Report, number 5. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I segregated this just with the discussion that we have had tonight.
Read the caption.
What's that?
Read the caption.
Oh, yeah. Number 5, Communication 19-578 is Gary Rendell, citizen, requesting Council of Commissioners to consider allowing the purchasing of the property located at 1820 Banks. I wish to redeem the property from Butte-Silver Bow before the tax sale in February. I segregated this just because of what we've discussed thus far. The next step for this communication would be to remove it from the tax sale if this body so asks for. I think everybody kind of knows where I'm at on it, so I segregated it. Back to you.
Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. As I said before, we've got 2 issues before us. Unfortunately, I cannot concur with this request. I believe that there's a tax sale coming up, and that might be the best route to go. I don't see how we can take these, strike them off a list of 14 items, and then go forward and without a resolution in place. So at this time, I would move to deny Communication 19-578 and place this on file.
We have a motion made and seconded to deny communication 19-578 and place the communication on file. Is there anything on the question? Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. How does this play into communication 2048, where we're reconsidering Mr. Townsend's property?
Separate.
Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive.
Your thing came on.
What's that?
It's off.
No, it's on. It doesn't. They're handled separately at this point. County Attorney Joyce can tell me if I'm wrong.
County Attorney Joyce.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Morgan, they don't, I mean, they are separate communications, and so you have to consider them separately, but I think that obviously you should take into consideration the same, the fact that they are making the same request and evaluating your decisions on each of these separate requests.
Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. No, sorry. So my biggest concern is that we have a process going forward for this. I do tend to agree with Commissioner Shaw when she says there are 14 other properties or 12 other properties whom the people that own these properties or who are in arrears probably don't know or haven't heard of the process that's going on, because that's just the way the public operates. I don't believe that either one of the parties tonight will not be able to get their property back at the second tax sale with the fact that it was not sold at the first tax sale. I think that the process being pushed so close up to a deadline, we need time to craft a resolution. I think we may be treading in some dangerous territory by singling these two out off of the list of 14. I think the only way to do it fairly would be to either leave these on the tax sale and let it proceed under the laws as they are currently written, and if there were procedures misstepped along the way, that's not for me to say, or to allow all 14 properties to be pulled from the tax sale, and I am very reticent to do that as well. Thank you.
Anything further? Commissioner Anderson.
I would make a substitute motion to strike this property from the sale.
Dies for the lack of a second. Anything further on the question? Everyone please vote. Mm-hmm. Oh, who? Oh, Commissioner Mankins. It's to deny the request in the communication and place it on file.
To deny the request to have it repurchased. Yeah.
So it would be on the tax sale coming up in February. Anything further on the question? Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I will be voting no on this for the fact that I think it's very hypocritical if we let one go one way and one go the other way. I think if we're going to allow one to remove from the tax sale, we should allow them both to be removed from the tax sale. And I honestly believe that one of the properties has substantially more value than the other, and it may be outbid. Thank you.
Anything further? Commissioner Anderson.
Commissioner Fisher, I agree with you wholeheartedly. That's why I made the motion to strike it from the sale.
Okay. Everyone please vote. Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
We have 5 yea and 5 nay.
Thanks. Since I don't know what you're going to do on the next one, I'm going to vote no. Which would? Nay. So the motion does not pass. If I knew what you were doing on the next one, it would make a big difference. But I agree that we can't do one way and one the other. That would be. So, County Attorney Joyce. Next step, wait for another motion to be made.
Yep.
Anyone like to make a motion? Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Chief Executive. I imagine this will fall upon deaf ears once again, but I would make a motion that we strike this property from the... No, it's on. I would make a motion that we strike this property from the upcoming tax sale.
We have a motion made and seconded to strike this from the upcoming tax sale. I would hope that there would be some conditions put on that, but none. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. The county attorney will have to answer the conditions. Again, we need to consider the liability that we have right now with all of this, because this resolution that we're all betting on right now is not going to be done in the next 2 weeks. This would give the other motion would have given the opportunity for that individual and maybe the other individual to purchase these property at the auction. And I would ask whoever can answer it is, what's your answer to my liability question for the next month and a half of individuals living in these Butte-Silver Bow owned property?
Commissioner McDonough. Oh, did you have a question? Oh. No, I thought you had an answer. Okay. Mr. Harper.
I think I'm on. Liability-wise, you've already been 5 months and 2.5 weeks. Twere this to motion to not pass, and by the way, I'm in support of this motion, and I think it's the right thing to do. And county attorney can answer this, I'm certain. If these people won't be evicted or out of that property before you pass a resolution anyway. So the liability stays the same. As a commission, I applaud you on worrying about what's best for Butte-Silver Bow. I think getting them back on the tax rolls is best, obviously. But you have 2 individuals who for 5 months and 3 weeks have not caused any liability to this county. I'm sure they're going to continue to try that. Can anyone guarantee that? No. With that said, unless you can evict them before you pass the resolution and allow them, they both have the money. They both want to buy this property back. The quicker the resolution passes, the quicker they can do that, the quicker your liability ends.
Amen.
To deny this motion, you literally could end up with, and one of them's right next to a group home or major construction that might want more of the area. They certainly could be outbid, and I think that's the lesser property that Commissioner Fisher was talking about. The other one's worth some money and could be outbid. These 2 can afford to get them back on the tax rolls versus losing their property and this commission deciding that that's what they want to do is make people homeless. So I think the liability stays exactly the same, Commissioner Morgan. Subject to, obviously, County Attorney Joyce would know more about these issues than I do because I've never been involved in them before, even when I was in the county attorney's office.
Did you have a question, Commissioner McDonough?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Back on the last vote that we voted, this is for the County Attorney Joyce, we voted 5-5, and Chief Executive Palmer voted no, which is in a 5-6, which effectively did that. Is that not correct? I mean, those that voted yea voted to deny the request, which was 5, and 6 voted against the denial, which effectively doesn't that remove it from the sale, or does it, the chief executive's vote, just kill the motion to re-enter the motion that was made on the floor that failed for lack of a second?
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner McDonough, yes, you're right that there was a motion made and the tie vote was broke by the Chief Executive, which made that motion fail because the motion was to deny it, and including the Chief Executive, 6 people then voted that you shouldn't deny the communication. So then you were back to not having a motion on the floor. Now, Commissioner Anderson has renewed his motion to take it off the tax sale, which now has a second. So now you have another motion on the floor to be voted upon. But Commissioner Shaw's motion did fail based on the Chief Executive's vote.
Commissioner McDonough?
So just as a point of clarification, thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. As a point of clarification, if we vote to, it essentially just reopens another motion? I thought we voted that, like, the majority voted to not deny the communication. 5 of us voted to deny, 6 voted to not deny. Doesn't it effectively remove the property from the tax sale? Or it just kills the motion and we go back to make a motion again?
Kills the motion.
Kills the motion.
It'd be like if the motion was to give me a raise and I lost, does that mean I actually get the raise?
Thank you.
Mr. Chief Executive, I do think that you're probably going to have to do more than just remove it from the tax sale. As communication might have to be also held in abeyance, because then you're going to have to decide after the resolution passes whether or not you're going to actually sell them this property. And just removing it from the sale, does that take it off the agenda? I mean, I think you're going to have your motion continue to hold this communication for consideration on what to ultimately do with his request.
And I agree with that. I think that that's why I asked if there's going to be conditions, because if you're just going to remove it from the tax sale, that means it's removed from the tax sale, and for how long? We don't know. But it should be a condition to comply with whatever the resolution that is passed contains. They abide by whatever is in the resolution. And that could be part of the motion, I would think.
Mr. Chief Executive, I don't necessarily disagree. However, you don't really know what's going to happen with that resolution. You don't know whether it's going to pass. So I think the more prudent thing to do would be to hold it in abeyance, remove it from the tax sale, but to hold this communication in abeyance, because you're going to have to figure out or determine how the entire process is going to play out, given after the public hearing and the introduction of the resolution and a final vote on the resolution.
Okay. Commissioner Callahan.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Eileen, County Attorney Joyce, what's our liability? You take these 2 off the tax thing, and the other 12 people come back and say, well, I didn't get the same opportunity they did. What's our liability?
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Callahan. Well, I don't know that. I think you, again, have liability for these two properties, just as Mr. Harper indicated, from the time that they didn't sell until the time you decide what to do with them. In terms of the other 12 people, I mean, that would be a question of whether or not any of them were to try to challenge the process. I think the reason that you're considering these two is because they're the only two that came before this body and asked for some action to be taken. The other 12 property owners, would have to file some kind of a, action to say that they weren't treated fairly, but they had the opportunity to do what these two did and make a request before this council to consider the same thing that you're considering with these two properties.
Okay. Does everyone understand the motion? It's to remove it from the tax sale, this property. Commissioner Anderson.
At this time, what I'd like to do is amend my motion to strike this property from the tax sale and hold this communication in committee of the whole until which time the resolution that may or may not be passed is resolved one way or the other. Thank you.
Okay, motion made and revised, motion made and seconded to strike this from the tax sale and hold it in the committee of the whole pending the outcome of the resolution. Get it right? Okay. Everyone understand the motion? Anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
There are 5 yeas and 5 nays.
I vote yea. Motion carries. Moving right along here, we're going to go to B, communications number 12, which is 2020-33. Dave Palmer, Chief Executive, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence on the preliminary site for the new animal shelter. A new animal shelter will benefit the animals of Butte as well as the community itself. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I segregated this communication, and I do like the location. It has some good potential with it. I just want one comment to say. I said it before when we were looking at this for the county shops, was how safe it is for our employees. I know Mr. Banderob sometimes doesn't think we listen to him, but I do. Humans should be our number one priority, and I just want to reiterate that DEQ, or is that DEQ and whoever else that are going to be giving us this this property, make sure that they can assure to us that it's going to be safe for our employees. That's my number one task here. Is if they're not going to sign off and give us 100% concurrence that it's safe for staff, then I won't support it. But I just want that out in the public forum right now. So
thank you, and nor will I accept it if it's unsafe for human health or even for the animals. It's It has been relayed to us that DEQ will complete the cleanup by the fall of 2020, and it will be safe for us to use as a site. It will be capped properly and cleaned up properly according to all the standards. But if in the end, if it isn't, and we feel it isn't, then we will not move forward. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. I guess that would be one of my concerns, but I'm all for the animal shelter. I'm all for the location. I just have a lot of concerns about what DEQ and Butte-Silver Bow are entering into an agreement, what contingencies are on there, because as we all know, Montana Pole site is a long way from being a cleaned up site. I mean, it's pretty evident, and I think that we might be a little premature with concurring and placing this on file right now without even seeing any of the stipulations of where it's setting on that property. All we can say for sure is it just shows us the buildings. I mean, is it going to be up towards Williamsburg more? Is it going to be down towards the railroad track? I mean, we don't have a lot of information on this, so I'd feel a lot better if we'd hold this in abeyance until we found a little bit more information and found out what DEQ and Butte-Silver Bow might agree upon before we go, approving a communication that really doesn't have no perimeters to it whatsoever. Thank you. That's just my opinion.
Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I appreciate those comments. I do know that Karen Khan, she is on the board, the animal board, and I see Commissioner Sorge probably would have commented if he were here because he's also on the board. But Karen explained some things to me I thought she might like to share with the council as far as the reason that they were asking to do this in advance. Okay?
Karen Khan, 2 Bittersweet Drive. I am the Vice Chairman of the Animal Services Board. We have created a Friends of the Animal Shelter to raise money to build another animal shelter. And in that process, we have looked at several locations around Butte. And there's issues with that. People don't want an animal shelter next to their house. They may want this shelter, but they don't want it in their backyard. We have looked at places that are big enough to facilitate, but they border neighborhoods. We've looked at places that would be great, but they're too small. So if you look at your drawings, the drawings were posted with this communication. And this might make it easier to see. These 2 drawings are identical. One is color, one is black and white. And there's a vicinity site plan on there. So it gives an idea of where this shelter would be built. So as I have been told, obviously the DEQ has to finish cleanup on this site, and it will be capped. Again, Chief Executive Palmer and this council has to give final approval for the shelter to be built there. But in our fundraising process, I can't ask Commissioner Shaw to donate money to my Friends of the Animal Shelter and then say, I don't know where we're going to build it. So after looking at several sites, we went to the Animal Services Board and suggested this very, very preliminary site of where the shelter could be built. It gives us a location that we hope we can build at and something that we can tell the public that this is where we'd like to do it. That's all I have to say.
And as on the site there, it is preliminary, but it's going to go closer to Montana Street, end of the pole plant. So the worst contamination that was there in the original spot is further towards Williamsburg, across, further up. That will be cleaned up too by the end of the year. But this is just a preliminary approval and to move forward with our fundraising. And we will be coming back before this council. And I will ask the person in charge for DEQ to come before this council and talk to us again about the pole plant, because if we get preliminary approval, we really want to start pushing these people that, you haven't seen any action down there since they put the overburden from the interstate there And they keep telling us it's going to be cleaned up, but it hasn't, and they just sit on it. So if we get preliminary approval to actually do something, then we're going to put pressure on the DEQ to move forward. So just asking for preliminary approval to use this site, and it would be closer down towards Montana Street.
And I would like to add that this fundraising process, it's not going to happen in 2 months. This, we're looking at a year for this to occur. And at that time, a lot can happen in a year. And if during that time this site does not work out, we will have to look at another site. But we did need to find something to give to the public so that they can look at it and choose if they wanted to donate building a new animal shelter. And again, when it comes time to build the shelter, we will have to come before the board and ask, we'll have to come before council and ask for permission wherever we choose to build within Butte-Silver Bow.
Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I think being that it's preliminary, it is a good spot if we can make it work and have the proper assurances. I voiced my concern. You can pass those on to the DEQ. So at this time, I would make a motion that we concur with Communication 2020-33 and place on file.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to concur in the request in Communication 2020-33 and place the communication on file. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
We have 9 yea and 1 nay.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you. Now we are back to Communication 2020-04. Michael Townsend requesting Council of Commissioners consider the purchase of my home located at 105 West Porphyry. I will comply with all the rules and regulations of the county enrichment program. Commissioner O'Neill, this is the one that you made a motion to reconsider, so would you like to make a motion?
Thank you, Chief. I'd like to make a motion to take this off the tax sale, refer to the committee of the whole. I took horrible notes. I apologize. I wish I could ditto Bill's motion, but I can't. My motion would be to take this committee of the whole and strike it from the tax sale and hold it in abeyance. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. We have a motion made and seconded to remove from the tax sale and hold in committee of the whole. Is there anything on the question? Commissioner Shea. Okay. Will everyone please vote? Anyway, okay. Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
We have 6 yea and 4 nay votes.
Motion carries. Okay. Now we're in Section 3, Ordinances and Resolutions, second reading. Number 1, Council Bill Number 2020-01, Ordinance 2020-01. Will the clerk please read the title?
Council Bill number 2020-01, ordinance number 2020-01. An ordinance amending Title 15 of the Butte-Silver Municipal Code B-SB-MC entitled Buildings and Constructions, amending Chapter 15.04 entitled Building Code, amending Chapter 15.05 entitled Adoption of International Energy Conservation Code, amending Chapter 15.07 entitled International Existing Building Code, amending Chapter 15.12 entitled Sign Code, amending Chapter 15.14 entitled Mechanical Code, amending Chapter 15.15 entitled International Fuel Gas Code, amending Chapter 15.16 entitled Plumbing Code, amending Section 15.20 entitled Violation.
Thank you. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to place Council Bill number 2020-01, ordinance number 2020-01 on second reading and pass, having been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to pass Council Bill number 2020-01, ordinance 2020-01 on second reading. Is there anything on the question? Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. I believe this is one that Lori Casey spoke to the Judiciary Committee about last week, and she had some contingencies in there that was if the Mike Nation is called out and they're not ready, that they wanted to put a $500 fine on them and things like that. I just want to make sure that everyone takes a good reading of this, because I think a $500 fine is a little steep for not having a permit in certain things. So just for general information, I would like everyone to make sure and follow this. I think that rather than a $500 fine, it should be a percentage of whatever the permit was or something like that.
I believe it was if they weren't ready, it's an hourly fee, whatever it costs. You know, if he spends an hour to drive down to Divide and look at it and they weren't ready and he has to just make a couple extra trips, it's in there that he can charge an hourly fee for doing that with a maximum, I believe, of $75. I can't remember what's in there, but the $500, right now, if somebody is building a building and they just know that the permit is going to be, say, $400 or $500 for the building, and they just decide, well, I'm not going to wait, I'm just going to do it without a permit. The penalty currently is to double the permit fee. And with the new ordinance change, it would be a $500 fine. Because typically a lot of the permits are only $20 or $30. So buildings are being built and work is being done with no inspections on them until the walls are already up, they're sheetrocked, and he doesn't have he can go in there and make them tear out all the sheetrock, but it's not a good idea. It's not good rapport with the people. But if they understand that there's a penalty up front that's going to be more than just the $20 or whatever the permit fee is, it will have more effect on getting sure that they get inspected and get the permits. But that's my understanding of the way it's written out in the new ordinance. Is that correct, County Attorney Joyce?
Mr. Chief Executive, I believe so, but I would recommend, I guess, since this is second reading, to have those things looked at in the Judiciary Committee next week, and they can decide whether they want to make any amendments to those specific provisions before it goes up for final reading.
Commissioner Fisher?
Thank you, Chief Executive Palmer. Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Yeah, I was just bringing that up because I just think for a person that's doing their own, didn't get a permit and they're doing a $1,500 roof or a little addition or something, $500 is just way too much for something. I mean, I think it should be either percentage of what the building was, or there should be another term besides just a flat $500 fee. So we'll visit about that next week. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Commissioner Fisher, is it a fee or a fine? It's a fine. All they have to do is buy the permit, and they won't be charged $500. So, thank you.
Sort of like if you pay your taxes, we don't have to sit here for 8 hours.
Bingo.
Okay. Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
We have 9 yea and 1 nay.
Motion carries. Section 4, ordinances and resolutions for final passage. Number 1 is Council Bill number 19-15, ordinance 19-15. Will the clerk please read the title?
Council Bill number 19-15, Council Ordinance number 19-15. An ordinance amending section 17.060.030 of the Butte-Silver Bow Municipal Code B-SB-MC, which section adopted the zoning map of Butte-Silver Bow, State of Montana, providing for a change to the official zoning district map by rezoning approximately 9 acres from M1 light industrial to C2 community commercial, commonly located on the northwest corner of Wynn Avenue and Motorview Road, located in Sub 14, Section 6, Township 2 North, Range 7 West of the PPM of City and County of Butte-Silver Bow, State of Montana, providing for the repeal of all parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date herein.
Thank you. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to place Council Bill 19-15, Ordinance 19-15 on final reading and pass, having been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to pass Council Bill number 19-15, Ordinance 19-15 on final reading. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote?
Bill.
Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
We have 10 yea and 0 nay.
Motion carries. Number 2, resolution number 2020-01. Will the clerk please read the title?
Resolution number 2020-01, a resolution amending the budget during the fiscal year after conducting a public hearing at a regularly scheduled meeting of the Council of Commissioners in accordance with Section 7-6-4006 MCA, appropriating unanticipated grant revenue from the Greenway Service District for the purpose of providing a snowblower attachment for a skid steer for the Parks and Recreation Department and providing for an effective date herein.
Thank you. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to place Resolution 2020-01 on final reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to pass Council Resolution number 2020-01 on final reading. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
We have 10 yea and 0 nay.
Motion carries. Number 3, Resolution 2020-02. Will the clerk please read the title?
Resolution number 2020-02, a resolution authorizing and approving the sale of real property owned by the City and County of Butte-Silver Bow, State of Montana, described as the south 55 feet of Lot 1 of Block 6 of the Pharaoh's Addition to the City and County of Butte-Silver Bow, Montana, to the adjoining owner, Continental Steel Realty, pursuant to policies adopted by the Council of Commissioners and providing for an effective date herein.
Thank you. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to place Resolution 2020-02 on final reading and pass, having been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to pass Council Resolution number 2020-02 on final reading. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
We have 10 yea and 0 nay.
Number 4, Resolution 2020-03. Will the clerk please read the title?
Resolution number 2020-03, a resolution authorizing and approving the transfer of real property described as lots 1 and 2 of Block 52 of the Butte Townsite addition to the City and County of Butte-Silver, Montana, to FMF Montana LLC in accordance with the provisions of the Butte-Silver Municipal Code and providing for an effective date herein.
Thank you. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I make a motion that we place resolution number 2020-03 on final reading and pass, having been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to pass Council Resolution number 2020-03 on final reading. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
We have 10 yea and 0 nay.
Motion carries. Number 5, Resolution number 2020-04. Will the clerk please read the title?
Resolution number 2020-04, a resolution authorizing and approving the transfer of the real property described as lots 1 and 2 of Block 38 of the Butte Townsite addition to the City and County of Butte-Silver, Montana, to Praxis Sim Center LLC in accordance with the provisions of Butte-Silver Municipal Code and providing for an effective date herein.
Thank you. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to place resolution number 2020-04 on final reading and pass, having been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to pass Council Resolution number 2020-04 on final reading. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
There are 10 yea and 0 nay.
Motion carries. Next, Section 5, Ordinances and Resolutions, suspension of the rules for final passage. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move for the suspension of the rules for the purpose of passing Council Resolution 2020-05 by waiving subsection 7 of Rule 36 of the Rules of Order of the Council of Commissioners, thereby having it considered for advanced passage without reference to the Judiciary Committee.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to suspend the rules for passing resolution number 2020-05 without reference to the Judiciary Committee. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Anyone wishing to change their vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
We have 10 yea and 0 nay.
Motion carries. Resolution number 2020-05. Will the clerk please read the title?
Resolution number 2020-05, a resolution authorizing and approving the sale of certain parcel of real property known as 40 East Broadway, Butte, Montana, and more particularly described as Butte Townsite, Section 13, T3 and R8 West, Block 28, Lot 003, Butte Townsite, Lots 3 through 9 and 34, Block 28, for the purpose of economic or community development in accordance with the procedures of Butte-Silver Municipal Code and providing for an effective date herein.
Thank you. Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I make a motion that we place Resolution 2020-05 on final reading and pass, having been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to pass Council Resolution number 2020-05 on final reading. Is there anything on the question? Will everyone please vote? Will the clerk please record the vote?
We have 10 yea and 0 nay.
Now that's a piece of good news right
Yes,
there.
it is.
It was worth waiting for, Karen.
And I just want to say that the closing date, they're going to transfer the deed on January 31st, and they will be holding a community event shortly after, sometime in February, to explain exactly and show the building off and what their plans are for that building. So look forward to that. But that piece of news made me very happy.
Yes.
Call your attention to public comments. Must be getting late. Public comment on any public matter not on the agenda. Seeing none, I'll call your attention to the calendar of other meetings and events. And Commissioner Morgan.
Make a motion we adjourn. Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Cindy. Here's your agenda back for that other one.
Yeah, I keep copies at least a month's worth. It's Murphy's Law. I'm always looking back at them.